traffic safety meeting. I think Andrew is going to join us on Zoom, so I'm going to run the meeting today. Yay. Need to roll.
Mary Lou McElwin.
Here.
Jane Mitchell-Pate.
Here.
Mark Syracusa.
Here.
Erica Wygonic.
Here.
Police Chief Mark Newport.
Here.
Fire Chief Bill McQuillan will be late. Public Works Director Peter Rice.
Here.
And Jillian Harris of the Planning Department.
Here.
Dave Allen. And Andrew
It's in
Bagley.
Aruba.
Andrew Bagley is via Zoom.
Great. Can we have the financial report?
All right, let me bring that up.
Quickly, I see Andrew on there. I don't know
Yeah.
if you had the opportunity to say here,
Here. Technically,
but just so you know, he's.
I don't think it's, I think by state law, it doesn't count as a, you have to be here in person.
We don't
Unless
do
it's
roll
a-
call votes now?
Unless it's an emergency, declared emergency, it is not a valid
Good point, sorry.
means of participation.
Okay.
And it's still, he can opine
It's not an
and,
invalid means of participation. It's just not an official means of participation.
correct, thank you.
It's not invalid. I don't know if that counts for attendance. Maybe you can vote.
I noted that he was via
Okay.
Zoom.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the financial report? Mary Lou?
I just had a question on where the EV charging stations are throughout the town. I only know of the two that we put in years ago down here in the parking
Bridge
lot.
Street
So-
lot,
Bridge Street.
Bridge Street.
4,
Oh,
Four.
yep,
Well, two stations.
2
four
stations,
rows.
4 heads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Foundry
One
has,
Hanover, one station, two plugs.
yep, and
One down here, one station, two plugs. City Hall.
can you
Ben,
come to the,
talk to the mic.
talk to the mic?
I'm not the only one asking that question, Ben.
Well, there's a map. If you have the app,
Well-
it shows you where everything is.
I
All the way
I
up to
like the
Seacoast.
information at this meeting.
Sure. So there's 3 singles at Foundry. There's 2 doubles, so 4 plugs at Bridge. There's one double at Hanover, so 2 plugs there, and 1 double down here at City Hall Lower.
Yep, good.
And anybody using the ChargePoint app will see that on the map. That's one of the good things about that product.
Do we have any plans to add EV stations?
That's up to the City Council.
We're going to be reporting back to council in terms of the utilization.
Good.
We believe that the utilization really should drive
Agreed.
the additional, and at this point, based on past numbers,
Yeah.
we haven't seen heavy utilization.
So we have 11 plugs total,
Yeah.
and we're doing about 12.6 charges a day.
That's good.
So
guess.
there's a normal parking fee plus the charge.
Correct. It's just like going to a baseball game. You pay to get in, you also pay for a beer. Different product.
Or a basketball game.
Yeah, sure. Anywhere, ever.
Do we know how long those charges are on average?
They're just under 4 hours, which is a result of the pricing, just like the on-street pricing and parking is just under 3. So it's $1.20, and this should be discussed, but it's $1.25 each of the first 4 hours, and it moves to $3. And we used 4 hours because it takes a Nissan Leaf on average 4 hours to charge at level 2.
Good.
Figure that'd be
And
fair.
is to not have them stay there after they're done charging, is to
Yes,
roll
move
them out
along.
and have
Yeah,
them go to regular.
they'll camp out all day.
So was the
So-
one, oops, sorry.
Yes, sir.
The one up here, is that free parking?
The parking is free, but the charge is the same.
So how do you move them along after 4 hours?
It keeps charging them.
And pricing. You move
Yeah,
them along
the
by
price
increasing
changes at the 4th hour, and it gives them an economic incentive to move on, just like the pricing of parking on the street.
So are those fast charge? Isn't there 3 types of charge systems? There's fast. Is there?
So there's level 1, which nobody really uses. These are all level 2s because of that 4-hour turn. Our business model downtown is to encourage people to get out and walk and shop. We don't necessarily want somebody to sit in their car for 20 minutes while it's charging and then move on. That's more of an environment you would have installed at, say, the liquor stores at the edge of the state, where somebody might be leaving to go to Massachusetts. They stop in, they shop, they're plugged in. 20 minutes later, they come back with their purchase. Their car's ready to go. More of a gas station model method. And you would certainly want to change and have a serious look at what you would charge per kilowatt hour for that because the infrastructure is enormously expensive to put those in.
And we also have capacity limitations
Prohibitive.
relative to transformer capacity.
Part of that expense.
It's a very expensive
It's very immersive.
number of those, yep.
Yeah, yeah. Good report, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other question? You had a question. Did you?
Yeah.
You get an answer? Okay.
Does anyone have any more questions about the financial report?
No. Motion to approve or?
I would just like to point out that, we're 75% through the year, but we're tracking around 83%
Yeah.
revenue generation, which is great, and that's really a testament to Ben's efforts with his staff. So I just wanted to acknowledge the value that parking brings to the city. It's often seen as an expense and a frustration for folks, but as you'll see in our budget presentation, the parking revenues actually offset a $1 million home valued by about what?
About $900.
About $900
$950, yeah.
off of their tax bill. So there's a huge value even if they don't go downtown.
Matt? One of the main complaints we get is I don't even use my car downtown and I don't get anything out of parking. But in addition to what Peter said, 900 plus off a $1 million home, which is pretty common in the town central. That person is overlooking the fact that the streets are plowed and the kids are getting to school more safely, and there's support for police, fire, Prescott Park, the school department, $1.5 million in salaries that are supported by parking that aren't parking related, $2.5 million to the general fund. So we're basically taking outside revenues, 96%, and converting that into services and products that everybody here can enjoy, and reducing the taxes at the same time. So, and that's for somebody who's not putting anything in. So it's very interesting for that person to make that argument, but that person's the one who's getting the most out of it. So it's that needs to be, hopefully that can be the discussion points as opposed to, what more can I get out of this? We're producing.
Good point.
We had a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We don't have to do a roll call vote. I guess we can't do a roll. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Item 4, public comment. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. You might be able to get back in line and do another 3 minutes if you need it. Name and address, please.
Tyler Garza, 62 McKinley. I wanted to talk on residential parking permits because it seemed like a hot ticket item. There were a couple great things the mayor said, along with Councilor Bagley, namely that creating a residential parking program would make the city more accepting of new, densely developed housing. This meets the goals of Portsmouth's Climate Action Plan, item CSLU 3. However, the mayor's suggestion, picked up very strongly by the press, that this would confer some sort of benefits, such as a free 15 minutes, is a horrible idea. When parking is free or priced below market, as it is currently, it is paid for by shifting the burden to property taxes. It's unrealized gains. 25% revenue sharing doesn't even remotely cover the costs of the land that's being used for surface parking already. It should be much higher. On a separate note, I wanted to mention that NHDOT is presenting to the City Council on May 5th on their Route 1 $10 million per mile boondoggle. They have made no meaningful changes to the plan since the last presentation, like reducing road width, and have simply done the bare minimum to avoid a lawsuit by abutting homeowners. Come watch the show. Thank you.
Anyone online? Nope. Okay. I'm going to close. Do I have to make a motion to close public comment? We just move on.
You just move on.
Okay. I don't think we have any presentations today.
Correct.
So our first item of new business, Hanover Street, request for annual renewal of valet parking license by the 100 Club. Sample motion, move to approve annual renewal of valet license for the 100 Club.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Just, there have not been any issues on this proposal in the past. We haven't, and nothing has changed, basically, right?
No,
It's the
they
same.
they changed their hours a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So that's still what it is now. It's 5
Yeah.
PM to midnight, 7 days a week.
Right, and the city doesn't have any issues with this
I
level of
haven't
parking?
received any calls related to this.
That's good. Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Item B, Chapel Street, request for 2 15-minute parking spaces by abutting businesses. Sample motion, move to refer to staff for evaluation and report back.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Ben, could you
Comments?
speak to, I know we've received a number of requests from Mary Lou in the past and others relative to the inventory of 15-minute parking, and I know Ben's working on that, and I'm not sure where you're at with the report back, whether we can do it today or whether we need to do it next meeting.
Well, I mean, it depends on the depth of the question. And do we want to speak to this first? This motion here?
Sure.
So this business on Chapel Street has a 100% loading zone across the street for deliveries, and about 60 yards away, there's 2 15-minute spaces on State Street. So I would, unless we're going to move one of those over, I would be loath to increase the population in this case of 25-minute, or excuse me, of 15-minute spaces.
So at this time, the motion is to evaluate and report back. So unless there's a desire to change that recommendation.
Yeah.
I was just kind of, that's the report back.
Yep.
Evaluated, sir.
Yeah.
There you did.
So
You just
you're
did it.
reporting back right now?
That, if that's acceptable.
Okay, I accept that.
All right, I-
Motion to have, to do the.
I'll do a friendly removal. I'll remove my original motion.
Okay,
If that creates a problem, I apologize.
a motion, okay, so the motion is to
So
have
is there a
Ben.
motion to discuss then?
Well, we had a motion on the table, which was to have staff evaluate and report back. We were discussing, I think we need an active motion to be discussing something, and we have friendly removed our motion, so right now we have no motion on the table.
Motion to discuss?
I'm making, okay, now I'm making the motion to have you express your evaluation right now.
Hold on. I think we got to have a second.
Second it.
Is everyone in favor of discussing right now?
Yes.
Is anyone opposed? Next door might be opposed, but no one in this room is opposed. So please, report back right now.
Okay, I'm sorry if I threw a wrench into the system. I figured it would be faster just to go ahead and report back when ready to go. This business has 2 spaces adjacent to it on Chapel Street, is looking for a 15-minute space. If you look in the map area here, directly across the street, most loading zones in Portsmouth convert to regular parking after a certain point. This one does not. This is one of the few that is 24 hours based on the activity we saw when we were filming each of these locations over time when we decided to do the share project. So if it's deliveries they're concerned about, that's covered there. And then just off the screen to the left are 2 15-minute spaces on the opposite side of State Street near that business. So the population of loading zone and 15-minute spaces in that area basically it kind of precludes adding any more. If we wanted to move one, I'd be open to that discussion.
Go ahead, open for discussion on the, so what's your opinion on that, moving it?
Makes no difference to me. I just would be loath to increase the population of the 15-minute spaces.
Okay.
Can I, just to clarify, is that on the side of Mama Luca's?
Correct.
2 spaces?
Yep.
So just to, I guess, speed things up or clarify, right, would it be appropriate now to reject this request or make that motion now?
I think we can.
Yeah.
We don't have that motion on the table right
No,
now.
then
We just
I
have the
will
discussion.
make that motion so we can.
Second.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Does anyone have discussion on, Andrew has comments, I think. We can't hear you, Andrew, though, so talk up louder.
That we place on file.
Thank you.
So I will amend my motion, thank you, Councilor Bagley, place on file.
I already second yours.
Yeah.
So you got to do a friendly amendment?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, it's, all right. It's okay.
I have
Mary
comments.
Lou,
I don't
comment.
think we should put it on file. I think we should deny it. We've had enough discussion about it. Can we do that? Can I make a motion that we deny this request based on?
You can vote against the, you can vote against the motion.
Okay, but I
And
can't.
if it fails, then that,
Andrew's talking too.
I was just going to say, this is a parliamentary issue where you place something on file, so that if it were ever to come back up in the future, it wouldn't require a supermajority to be reviewed. So typically, we wouldn't outright reject things, we would place them on file.
Well,
I think it's just simpler management.
Yeah, it's a tool.
place it on file.
We're doing it as a tool to move on, to make a decision today.
Okay.
I think it will take longer if we don't.
If we,
I don't.
okay.
It'll take longer. Does anyone have any other comments about? Wait, Mary
I
Lou?
do in general, that when these requests come, I'm requesting that the person who is asking for this request come to our meeting, so that we get an idea of what the business is and what's actually going on there. I just feel as if sometimes it's Ben who reports it, sometimes it's Eric, and I like to know what the scoop is, why someone is requesting. We've had that with Deer Street. And that's just my personal feeling on it. It doesn't have to carry through to the entire committee, but I would like to see that happen, if it's possible.
I don't know that we can require someone to come to our meeting. I think it's a good reflection on someone's level of interest and commitment personally, whether
yeah.
they come and I understand what their motivation is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know that we're in a position to require them. We can
Okay.
encourage them.
yes, I think if we could request that.
Mark, do you
The
have
same sentiments of what Erica said. If you're going to petition the city for something, it's either write a letter, get some signatures, show up to the meeting, go on Zoom. So whoever petitioned this is, there's none of that. We don't have.
I know.
Yeah, so,
I mean,
so
Jane knows. How many meetings have you come to before you were on our committee?
A handful.
Okay, we're getting a little,
We're on to the chief's
yeah.
motion.
Yes.
Can we,
I'd rather stick with that.
so we have a motion to place on file, I believe. We have a second. Any more discussion on that?
I just add one more comment. They have requested, the same applicant has requested the 2 spaces on State Street for outdoor dining, so those will most likely be taken up as well. So just for information, those spaces will not be available either.
Those are not 15-minute spaces?
No,
Those are just
those are regular spaces that will be barricaded off, and they'll have tables out in them.
Okay,
It speaks to inventory reduction in the area, though.
yeah.
Yeah,
I am intrigued at the idea of moving a space. I don't want to cloud this discussion with that. I'm interested, maybe when you do the report back on 15-minute space, like the larger kind of look that we've talked about with 15-minute parking. I'm interested in the strategy of, on some level, I can see how it makes more sense to have 15-minute spaces clustered. We have them in a pair, and then they're a little bit easier to manage. And if you're looking for a 15-minute space, you know that there's spots there. At the same time, I see advantage of having them spread out, because then multiple businesses, it's more businesses are within a good walking distance of a 15-minute space. So I'm curious about that, because I am.
so I think this warrants a larger discussion in terms of the value of 15-minute spaces and really why is it that this, is it the city's obligation to subsidize because there is a direct cost associated with a 15-minute
Right.
space?
Yeah, I'm not advocating for more. I'm personally just curious about.
From my perspective, a supermarket like Richardson's, where you literally are going in and grabbing, butter, milk, something, beer on a regular basis.
Hopefully more.
Well, butter and milk. But you're not there for more than 5 minutes. And that, to me, is versus a restaurant, which, you want to have the convenience, but they're also, the majority of people are coming in and sitting down and having dinner. And
right.
the whole idea is that the resident spoke earlier is that, having 15-minute spaces really discourages the behavior we're trying to create, which is to have people, park, stay longer, do more than just, park and run. So it's really not something that I think it deserves a larger conversation. And I, Mary Lou's asked for this a couple times, and I think it'd be worth, putting that as an agenda item.
Well, I could
for
certainly
discussion.
tell you guys where I am at this point. We're working on a brand-new map of the entire system. I was not correct when I said there were 22 of these spaces. There are 25 of these spaces. We do have them marked on the map and in the newest configuration, like we just recently moved one on Hanover Street in front of Shalimar. And so the entire business model is predicated on a 3-hour turn, and that's in the principles. That is what has been decided over the course of years, and I think correctly so, best suits the majority of the businesses downtown. A 15-minute space would serve a quick service group, but if you consider the inventory issues we have now, what's our highest and best use for the overarching constituency? Benefiting one or two businesses very near a space could be conceived as at the detriment of the remainder of the residents of the block, the businesses on the block. So if we had plenty of parking inventory elsewhere, then we would have more liberty to take with 15-minute spaces or converted usage and things like that. But until such time that the overarching inventory issue that we have, and I think is well documented at this point, is remedied, then we should consider any decisions going forward as highest and best use only, as painful as that might be for certain groups.
And can I ask you a question? What are the rules in the loading zone in front of Doma or across the street?
So commercial vehicles, which is a specific weight, GVWR, I think 16,000 or 9 passengers or more, including driver, I think. At the top of my head, that's...
I think I'm more in like the loading zone hours and
Right, so...
to the general public to park in.
At that location, its loading zone's 24 hours. So it does not convert at 3 o'clock like most of them do, which was part of our project a couple of years ago to try and find inventory where there wasn't any. That one did enough business throughout the day that we left that one at 24 hours. So just to get back to answer your question, who can use it? Commercial vehicles, as long as they're actively loading and unloading, have 30 minutes. If you're a very small business and don't have a vehicle that can be considered commercial by the legal standard, you can purchase a loading zone permit, which is basically we put your plate in a system, and when we look you up, it says, okay, this person's paid for a loading zone this year, and then that person has afforded the same 30 minutes as long as they're loading and unloading actively.
Maybe next month we could have a copy of that new parking map in our packet.
I'm hopeful.
I feel like that might,
I don't control the creation of that, but the person I'm working with is very responsive.
does that seem,
I don't.
We'll get it done.
okay.
I don't know how to make maps.
I feel like that might answer a lot of questions that have come up.
So Erica, it's a motion to put on file that's been accepted?
Yes, the motion to
Okay.
put on file has been seconded.
Okay.
Do we have any other comments or questions about that motion or what is now devolved to 15-minute parking writ large? Okay. Can we vote on the motion? All in favor of putting this on file?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. New business C, Brewster Street, request to change loading zone hours from 7 to 3 Monday through Friday to 6 to 11 Monday through Saturday by abutting businesses. Sample motion, move to approve change in loading zone hours on Brewster Street from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday to 6 a.m. through 11 a.m. Monday through Saturday.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
The division has no objections.
And this request came from the abutting business there, so they're looking to get more parking for their customers. And so they're the ones who use the loading zone, and so if they're requesting it, we don't have an issue with it.
Agreed.
It's the business.
The kitchen
Oh,
and
okay.
and the
Yeah.
Cafe Killen.
Yep.
All right. Let's vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on. Item D, Columbia Street, request to prohibit parking on one side of Columbia Street by resident. Sample motion, move to refer to staff for evaluation and report back.
So moved.
Yeah. Second.
Any questions or comments? Eric, maybe you can tell us a little bit?
Yes, Columbia Street was reconstructed as part of the Islington Street project, and when that was done, the sidewalks were expanded and the curb lines pulled out, so Columbia did become more narrow than it was in the past. And so basically, it's become a yield street. As you can see here, one car down the middle, there's not room for another car coming the other way, but that's actually by design to try to keep speeds down on residential streets like this, so you don't have two-way traffic on unlimited speeds.
Right.
So the street is operating as intended. There are a lot of parking apartments with parking demand, so there is a lot of parking on street here. So we'll take that into consideration. We'll look at volumes. We can go out there and record volumes and speeds and see what we have for current data. As part of the request, there has been a request to look at the crosswalk across Islington at the end of Columbia, and whether or not an RFB should be placed here. So we can look at that as part of our report back. We did look at that about a year or so ago, and we didn't have that much pedestrian activity, but things may have changed. We'll take another look at that, too.
Thank you.
Would the committee like to do a site visit on, this to me almost, warrants a type of just walk through and just get a feel for it.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
So
We need a motion for that.
we could add it to next month's schedule so that we'd do it the Tuesday before.
Yeah, usually then.
Does anyone have any comments, or are we ready to vote to move to refer to staff for evaluation report back? Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Erica, that would be June 3rd site visit on a Tuesday?
Yes.
Is there anything notable about June 3rd, or are you just letting us know for
Well,
our
he's-
record
The
keeping?
day before my birthday.
Oh,
See, that's why. We don't want to have any conflicts now.
I don't want any either.
I wanna make sure
but it's
everybody's
gonna be
here.
A party week.
There you go.
that's why we're scheduling an extra meeting.
So when was your birthday? So now we're going to get cake on June 5th.
Oh, that's a good idea. I could do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Last time we had cake was
I'm
Harold.
going to keep moving, okay?
Sorry.
Old business, item A, 238 Deer Street, report back, request for 15-minute parking space by a butter, sample motion, move to place on file.
So moved.
I'll second.
Eric, do you have a report back here?
Yes, we've looked at this, and we've looked at also the parking requirements for the new building that went in where the Stady was, and that was, I believe, is in the packet, how the tenants are required to provide proof of off-site parking as part of their tenancy agreement. This area is undergoing a lot of change with new buildings, new construction. Inventory is very low in this area. We want to see how things work out before we go and designate any more 15-minute spaces. So we're not recommending that we convert this one space to 15 minutes. We leave it as is. Also, there is a handicap space next to this one, which is left over from when this used to be the VFW and also the Stady restaurant. Right at this point, we don't see any need for keeping that handicap space, and it would be my recommendation that we approve the removal of that and convert that to a regular parking space as well. That would increase the inventory in this area. Typically,
Sounds like a new motion.
Typically, when handicap spots are granted by this committee, we just follow up on them as a staff initiative. And when the resident is moved away or no longer needs it, then we simply remove it. We don't come back to this committee typically for approval to remove the signs.
But that wasn't a resident-specific request.
No, this
right?
one has been there for many years when it was the VFW. So.
Where's the closest ADA space other than that?
Probably, I think that's up on Bridge Street.
There's 3 in Bridge Lot, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a misnomer, too. I mean, it's a regular parking space that's signed for handicap accessibility.
Yeah, there's no curb ramp, no tip down next to it.
Yeah, good point.
It's just a reserved space.
It's just a reserve space.
Requirements have changed since that was put in place.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about this?
Well, you
item?
asked if this was part of the motion.
I'm going to ask that the idea of the handicap space is not part of this conversation. We can take that up separately. You okay with that?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Is that okay
More
with that?
information.
I'm fine with that.
I'd like to stay as focused as we can. We're doing medium. Medium. Jane, did you have a comment? Does anyone have any questions or comments about the motion to place on file the request for 15-minute parking space on Deer Street. Let's vote all in favor of the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the handicaps? Do we need to make a motion, or is this something you just manage?
Typically, we just manage, but I mean, it'd be good to have the committee weigh in just to.
Does anyone have opinions? We don't have to weigh in. If anyone wants to move, we can.
Keep burning that agenda.
Yep, okay. Andrew, how do you feel about that?
I think that's a great idea.
I don't know what he thinks is a great idea.
I would suggest it's just more informational.
Great.
And it's just to let you all know that if we're adding one, here's what we're doing. If we're taking away one.
It's a good idea.
I think it would be good to just check out what the distribution is of accessible spaces, or I guess it's not accessible, it's just handicap, to make sure that they are
That'll be part of the map project.
great. Okay, old business item B, on-street overnight camping in vehicles. Is that also, who's going to talk about that?
So this is.
Touch it.
Somebody put it on the agenda.
I'm looking
Wasn't me.
at the police chief.
It wasn't me.
So
Sorry.
I'll chat about it. So and I guess there's no action associated with it, but we have started to receive concerns from residents overnight parking. Campers are starting to show up on different streets, and it's they're setting up showers, they're putting barbecues out. It's a camping site.
That's right.
Which I appreciate that. However, it's something that's been a concern from residents over time, and I'm not sure. We looked at this from the legal standpoint, and there was a mixed ability to enforce. And there was concerns given the challenges with housing for some of our staff, that it had unintended consequences. However, I think it's something that staff will look at again and report back and see what tools we have available to improve and restrict or better define where it's acceptable.
Peter, if I could interject, or Erica, I don't think there's much council support for any enforcement actions. However, if we do move to a neighborhood parking program, that may just address some of the issues as they're.
That's a good point.
Pay an hourly rate potentially. So I think we should hold off on making any changes until we have that program off the ground, if you will.
I think that Councillor Cook was working on this last year. There was talk about Walmart parking lot being used for campers, making that, because they do that in Somersworth. So I'm not sure where that is from the City Council at this point, but there was a lot of discussion about campers on the city streets and in the parking lots and in the library parking lot. I've seen that a lot in the past. Hasn't quite started up yet this year.
Parrot.
What?
Parrot Ave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Parrot Ave, but they come into the parking lot.
Rockland, Parrot Ave.
Yeah, a lot of places, so.
Wartree.
Yep.
So Peter, you're pretty much so Barrett Ave is pretty much people coming for the day and parking all day and enjoying the outside and setting up grills and stuff. Or are you talking about overnight?
Overnight.
Literally
yes.
overnight.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And I think there has to be some restriction on, setting up grills, making it a campsite. It's one thing to have it parked there and maybe bring one or two chairs out. It's a very different thing for them to set it up as a campsite. And I think that should be part of the discussion when the staff.
Well, I think the councilor's point that a residential parking program will regulate this, because what will happen is it'll become paid for. If you don't have a residential, if your plate is not in the system, you will be charged for that. And if you start to get, whatever dollars per hour, and then after 3 hours it kicks into a higher rate, it'll regulate the folks parking.
I don't think it'll regulate somebody putting a grill out. That's my point, is that I think they're making it into an actual campsite. And also the resident parking, it's not going to happen this summer.
Hey, I wouldn't, don't say never,
I didn't say never.
Well,
Not going to.
yeah.
Anyway, I just think it's more of a
Division
picture
on
than
the
just,
council on this issue.
putting
Any
a,
recommendations we make will not be successful until we have the resident parking program. There's a lot of differing opinions at the council level over what the best path forward is.
Andrew, does the council want our input at all at this point?
No, but that's not to say that won't change.
Okay. Can I ask who put this on our agenda?
I believe we did. I believe staff did.
Thank you, staff.
You're welcome. We received complaints from residents on Rockland Street.
Okay.
And as the
Thank you.
result of the
That's
receipt of those
helpful to
complaints, we felt it was appropriate to
Okay.
bring it back into the process. And we understand that it is not a simple solution, but we figured it was a good opportunity to start talking about it again.
Okay, it's good for us to know if there are
Yep.
citizens.
I apologize. I should have made it clear.
No, I think it wasn't clear what the intention was here for this conversation. So I think at this point, it sounds like it's good for us to be aware that citizens or residents are upset. You're getting complaints, and the council has ideas that they're working on.
Yep.
And at some point, we may be asked for our opinion. Does that summarize everyone's thoughts on our conversation? Mark
I
has a
think that's a
comment.
perfect summary.
Is there, Andrew, okay, Eric, I just want to know if there's any conversations on metering Parrot Avenue.
So that'll be part of the residential parking program discussion.
That's why, okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on.
There's your deterrent right there.
Is everyone okay with that?
Please.
No one feels we need to, okay, great. Informational, monthly crash report.
All right.
Let's do it.
Well, I think you want
I'll
to
do my best there.
Been a
There
long
was
time.
60 total motor vehicle accidents in the month of March. 36 of those are reportable accidents. None of those accidents involved a bicyclist. And there was one accident that involved a pedestrian. Minor injury. That's it on the accident reports.
your turn.
Just one other thing I wanted to mention that we're working on now is trying to address the e-bikes. There's not a lot of regulation with them,
Yeah.
but we're going to work on kind of doing an in-house task force.
Can you bring your
on-
mic to you? Thank you.
An in-house task force amongst our officers to get out there and do, a public announcement on the rules and regulations. E-bikes follow all the rules of bicyclists, but now that these bikes has different classifications, and
Yeah.
certain classes can go certain places and certainly can't. One of the big issues, and I think Eric will know this, is on in Peter, is the bike trails. They're tearing it up down there because some of the electric bikes have enough power to put ruts into the roads and stuff. We've had kids riding wheelies down the middle of Congress Street,
Beverly Hill Road.
Beverly Hill,
Yeah.
Middle Road,
33.
so we're trying to come up with public service announcement and tell the general public that we'll start enforcing the biking rules relative to e-bikes, because there are kids that have been getting seriously injured, which happens on a bike anyways, but generally not in the middle of the road,
Right.
going 30 miles an hour on a bicycle. So we will be bringing more forward on that as time progresses.
I'm glad the chief brought this up because, it seems like they're not e-bicycles, they're e-motorcycles.
Right.
And, they look, no, they're not
Some
mopeds.
of
They
them
are,
look
they are
like
dirt
dirt
bikes.
bikes.
They look like, if a kid went riding down the road with a gas-powered bike that has the same amount of power,
Yeah.
that'd be illegal, right?
Right.
So it's like,
Unless they had a
it's-
license plate, they registered.
yeah,
but-
I mean, it's
Is there
just,
anything in
it's,
New Hampshire right now at the state legislature level dealing with this?
They're talking about it, but there's nothing that's been implemented.
Yeah.
And not just the e-bikes, but you got those electric razors and the scooters.
Yep,
And,
yeah.
and people are flying down the roads, and
Yeah.
they're hard to see. And
the kids' behavior on the bikes are just amazing. They are just like, they're clueless. They're running down through the middle of town doing wheelies and stuff. It's like, come on.
Right.
Just Don't
It's
mix it.
dangerous for pedestrians and drivers. I mean, my husband has encountered that with kids on Lincoln Street.
Well, I'm worried about the kids, you know, if you're in a car, you know, they hit you, it's one thing, but the kid's going to likely get killed.
Right.
Is that, well, who wants to kill them? You know, that's
Right.
that's our responsibility, and that's the scary
Parents may
part.
want to at times, but
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's on our radar, and we're going to try to best address it through education, but we'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
About the
That's great.
pedestrian.
I have a question. Is there any additional information about the pedestrian accident from March?
Yes, it was in Market Square. It was at the crosswalk of Daniel Street and Market Square. So right there on the corner of the pizza, what's it, Tuscan Pizza or whatever. And the driver came to the stop sign, both looked, and when we looked the other way, the pedestrian started walking, didn't see it, and then bumped into her. So it was a minor incident, low speed, fortunately.
Thank you.
It's happening a lot, that pedestrians are not, they're just,
Just shoot, right? Just
Whether or
because you
not
have
they're
a
on a phone, it
crosswalk, you
doesn't
still-
matter. They're just
You should still make sure the
out
driver
there.
sees you before you
Yeah.
walk in front of the car.
thank you.
Back on the e-bike topic, I know we're somewhat limited in the regulations specific to e-bikes, but I think those like speeding rules still apply. So if it's on the road, it's subject to the speed limit.
Yeah, and the
hope
majority of them are not speeding.
Some
per
of them
se,
are actually speeding.
but they're not over the speed limit.
When I'm getting passed by an e-bike, or not an e-bike, an e-dirt bike, I hope the police are empowered to pull over someone speeding, even if they're on a bike. I'd love to. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on the crash report or related topics? Outdoor dining season.
Yes, it has started. This morning, our guys are out there putting out barriers, mostly on Daniel Street right now, Daniel Street Tavern, the Press Room, Moxie, and Dwyer's Pub. I think they're all going in today. And then next week, there'll be a few more. Thirsty Moose will be next week, Series Street Bakery next week. Massimo's the week after that. So they're all starting to come out now. Good weather's bringing them out. That's
Any questions, comments, or concerns on outdoor dining? All right, we're going to keep you on the hot seat for the roadway construction projects update.
Okay, so Maplewood Ave Bridge is still closed both directions. Reopening one lane inbound only next month.
Oh, really?
And once that,
mid-June.
mid-June, yes.
Progress.
And
That's really-
it'll be like that until the project is finished, late summer, when they can open up both lanes again. So, meantime, the Islington Street project continues. We're putting in new signal equipment at the Congress Street intersection. That's what you've seen yesterday, getting some prep work done for that. That in Islington will be finishing up this year. There's also projects on finishing up on Willard, Union, Sagamore. There are also the private development project at 2 Russell Street, in the large parking lot across from Sheridan. That should be breaking ground in the coming months. And when that happens, Russell Street will be closed off for a while. The detour will be down Market Street to Deer Street. So just be prepared for that, those detours.
How does the Maplewood detour, do they have a detour for the detour then?
We're holding off on, they have some work on Deer Street at Maplewood, which we're holding off on until Maplewood Ave Bridge is open.
Great, I'm glad.
So,
Thank you.
yes, we're juggling detours. Meanwhile, the projects all around the Foundry Garage, they're on track to be finishing up this year, so we've been doing pretty well there on Bridge Street and Deer Street, not having to close it to two-way traffic. We've been able to keep that open during that process. We will hope it will be as lucky as for the 2 Russell and Green Street projects, which are coming up next. So there'll be a lot of construction moving over.
One thing for the, if I may, for the general public and you all to understand is Eric and staff meet weekly with these contractors for these private developments to try to coordinate the various activities to make sure we minimize the disruption. So this is something that's been ongoing, and it's been working really well. So, you know, it's much to Eric and the other staff making sure that, we're planning ahead and trying to minimize disruption. So it's helpful.
Good.
Mary Lou?
I have a question on Middle Miller Summer.
Yes. That intersection will be put in with new signal equipment. It's likely late this fall or early in the winter. It's right now the contractor's on board, and we're doing some boring work just to it's not very exciting, but it's boring into the ground for the mast arm foundation. Then we will, once the signal equipment gets delivered, which is a long lead time on those items, the mast arms and the signal equipment. So it's probably late in the year or early next year that
Hopefully.
that will be going into place.
Great. It's really needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's failing on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah. It's very old equipment right there. And Bartlett Street, there will be final paving will be next month, and that's when the raised intersection and raised crosswalk will be put into place. And we should see some changes in speeds out there. Some residents still concerned about speeding, but I think these will have significant impact once the
Good.
project is finished up.
Okay.
Yep. Any others? Okay.
Questions, comments, or concerns
Oh,
about?
one more. Sidewalk project on South and Lafayette Hillside, Greenleaf Ave. That will be starting
Next 2 weeks.
next,
Tree
okay.
removal next week, hopefully.
Yes.
Sagamore as well? Is that
Sagamore is finishing up the project from last year, the one that's been going on, moving.
Sagamore sidewalk? Is that?
Yeah, sidewalks and moving the poles out of the way, so. Yeah, so,
Peter, you getting a lot of click and fixes for potholes?
Not more than typical.
Okay. It's just the season.
Okay.
When does the crew get out there and they start?
We've been out,
Been
yeah.
out there for a while?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for over a month now.
Starting on lines now, too.
yes, the long lines, all the edge lines on the roads have been painted. They're in the process of being done right now.
Yeah, new paint. Snowplow repair.
Snowplow repairs ongoing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So my comment was on the sidewalks, on the click and fix. I was one of those comments because there are a lot of broken bricks around downtown especially. Those can get addressed. It's a tripping, that's what comes up in click and fix,
Yeah,
tripping
and just
thing.
to be aware that there are easy maintenance types of things, and there are more capital-intensive things or emergencies. C-Click Fix is intended to be more just like a routine maintenance type of thing. There is, replacement of bricks is not a routine maintenance. That becomes more, you need to get somebody on board to do that. We don't have in-house staff that does those types of brick repairs.
Just
So if it's-
one or two bricks? You can't just replace one or two bricks? So that's the issue, is that people are saying a brick is missing, a brick is chipped off,
If it's
Tripping, it's-
if it's a trip hazard and it's been reported, we'll address it. It may be filled with asphalt. It may not be a brick.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Filled in.
or maybe something. But if it's an aesthetic issue,
Right.
that's not, that doesn't
Right.
boil to the top of the list.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to move on to miscellaneous. Does anyone have any miscellaneous?
I think we covered them all.
No, there actually, I have one.
Hey,
A bunch of fifth graders worked with kids across the school
That was
to
wonderful.
get the second Tuesday in May declared Crossing Guard Appreciation Day. I feel like this committee
Yes.
is an appropriate venue to be aware of that, and go thank your crossing guards.
I thought that was wonderful. I want to comment on that. That was a great presentation that the kids did. And I want to thank Ben, because you're in charge of the crossing guards, aren't you? Or who is within your department? Yeah, I mean, those kids went around to all the schools to get signatures, almost 400 signatures, and appreciation. And there was I know it was really sweet. Erica Beer's son.
Yeah.
Owen, it's so cute.
Owen, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was on my mind also, is to acknowledge. It was great.
Ben would like to say something.
If nobody minds. Yeah, this is a group of folks that's very dedicated. They come out, it doesn't matter the weather, twice a day. It's not a great deal of pay. They deal with a lot of angry drivers who apparently never had children. I don't know. But so It's a group that really deserved to be recognized, and I think it was, heartwarming is probably the word I would use, to see the youngsters come and do that on their own because they see the value in it. And I was like, when I saw that, and I was just like, oh, okay.
Me too.
I thought that was extraordinary, and I thought that was really cool that they went around to all the schools and then they got hundreds of signatures, and then had the gumption to stand up in front of everybody and make those 2 presentations. We are going to do a little something for this group in 2 shifts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Obviously, it's very difficult to get this group together in one room because a lot of them do other things throughout the day. They have other obligations, and so we're not the only thing they do. But we are going to make this effort, and it should be a pretty cool experience to be recognized. Certainly as the youngsters are the one doing the recognizing. I think it's really great, and in as much as I will articulate how the public can be negative at sometimes, I think it's only fair to articulate when the public reaches out in a positive way to kind of encourage some of our team members that sometimes don't feel this, get this kind of love. And I just, without going too long on it, I just think it's special. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and we're looking forward to it.
I remember my crossing guard from elementary school in New Britain, Connecticut, who crossed us across this very busy street, Mr. Bedard. All
There
these
you
years
go.
later.
Yeah.
It's a memory.
It's almost like a teacher. Yeah, it's somebody who's in your life for a
Exactly.
significant amount of time, and a lot of our
Safe.
folks repeat every year. They come back, and so that longevity lends itself to formative years. Somebody 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they see the same person every morning. They know them by name, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Program.
It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
I will pass that along.
To Eric. Was that your son?
That was my son.
The first one?
Awesome. Right on.
I said, is that Erica? And I go, it was.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, moving on. Any other miscellaneous? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
So moved.
All in favor?
There we go.
Hi.